This is a little baby of mine called Estranged.
When we started to record the song, I brought it in to the band, and no one really quite had a concept of what it was we were going to do with this thing.
I don't necessarily know of anyone who's made a video like this, showing, their own emotional destruction and their process of transcending that.
Appearing on track 11 of Use Your Illusion 2, Estranged is one of GNR's more complex songs. Much like November Rain and Don't Cry, it had a big budget and a big production. Both its lengthy song and video hold a lot of metaphors and hidden meanings that give the track a high level of quality and replay value. The video cost an estimated $4 million to make and was directed by a man named Andy Morahan. As well as directing the connecting videos to Estranged, November Rain and Don't Cry, Andy has also done the music videos for Yesterdays and Garden of Eden. Andy has also worked with some of the best musicians in the industry, most notably George Michael, the Pet Shop Boys and Cyndi Lauper, just to name a few. To this day, I don't think anyone has really tried figuring out what this video is all about, so that's what I aim to do in this documentary. Guys, before we begin, if you want to support the channel and my work, make sure to click like on the video, subscribe to the channel and be sure to leave a comment, as this will help boost this video in the algorithm. The song was written and composed by Axl Rose. He gained the inspiration for the song from a dream he had. The piano part of the song came from this dream, and as he went to figure it out after he woke up, the lyrical part of the song was composed, and the rest was put together when he presented the song to the rest of the group. So what does it mean to be estranged? Well, here's the dictionary meaning from the video itself, if you can understand it. But my understanding of feeling or being estranged is when you have a serious argument with a friend, a loved one or a family member with whom you were once close with, but are now not on good terms with. The feeling can also come from a drastic or gradual change in a person's life and or environment that they haven't been able to process properly. It's that feeling of what the F just happened here, whether it be moving house or country, losing a friend, family member or loved one. What once was no longer is. What was once your normal life and your normal routine has suddenly been flipped sideways and you haven't adjusted to it yet. Basically, that's what I think it means to feel estranged. Through the art of cinema, the music video for Estranged paints a picture of how Axl Rose felt on the Use Your Illusion tour. In his own words, he describes this video as his emotional destruction and the process of transcending that destruction. By the time the video was released, it was the end of 1993 and the end of the Use Your Illusion tour. The tour itself lasted 3 years, starting on January 20th, 1991 and ending on July 17th, 1993. They played 197 shows in 27 different countries. It was one of the longest tours in history at the time, and a lot went on in them 3 years. By the time the tour started, the band had a new lineup. Along with Slash, Duff, Izzy and Axl, we now had Matt Sorum on drums, Dizzy Reed on keyboards, percussion, backing vocals and tambourine, Teddy Zigzag on keyboards, harmonica, backing vocals, and Tracy Amos and Roberta Freeman on female backing vocals. Just as the band got bigger, so did the entourage, which included counsellors and spiritual healers. With such a big crew and a seemingly endless set of tour dates, it wouldn't be long before a never-ending list of drama started to unfold that would eventually split the band up. A quarter of the way into the tour, rhythm guitarist Izzy Stradlin quit the band and was replaced by Gilby Clarke. Duff had devolved into a self-destructive mess, sniffing cocaine and drinking whole bottles of vodka a day just to function, which would eventually lead to his pancreas exploding. Slash wasn't much better, dabbling with both cocaine and heroin, which would lead to him having a cardiac arrest in a hotel. Axl Rose's relationship to Stephanie Seymour had ended that year, which eventually resulted in a nasty court battle. On top of all this mess, it had been 3 years of late shows, cancelled shows, arrests, feuds and riots. With all the drinking, drugging and drama going on every day, I could imagine that near the end of this tour you could cut the tension between everyone with a knife. Everyone was exhausted both mentally and emotionally. But despite all of this, if you watch any concert from 1993 near to the end of the tour, the band on stage are shockingly tight. Stage performances are absolutely unreal. The band seem perfectly in sync with one another. Even the camaraderie they all seem to share between each other between songs would give you the impression that everything was rosy, but sadly this was not the case. I think it's fair to say a lot of people took this video at face value and wrote it off as pretentious or all ego or a waste of money. But in my opinion, this isn't true at all. In fact, I think it's the opposite. I think it's one of their best videos, because it's a carefully put together puzzle for you to figure out. Axel has laid his heart and soul out on the table for us all to see. Despite Estranged being part of a trilogy of videos, the storyboard of this video had to be changed. As I mentioned previously, Stephanie Seymour, the woman who starred in the 2 previous videos, Don't Cry and November Rain, was no longer part of Axel's life, so they ended up altering it. Part of me does wonder how the video would have turned out had she had stayed with him, but this is what we got, and what we got, in my opinion, is a masterpiece. So here's what I think is going on in this video. In the moments that Axel was off tour, we see him laying down alone, presumably in his home. The lights are off and we see him coming out of a deep sleep, but still lost in deep thought, probably thinking about the people who used to be in his life but aren't there now. So consumed by these thoughts and feelings, the police could have literally been raiding his home and he wouldn't have even noticed or cared. It's all background. Day-to-day reality is just a blur. This scene seems to focus in on what a typical concert is like. I imagine for Axel every gig is starting to feel the exact same, and yet the vibe has completely changed. It's no longer fun. You go to work, do the gig, sing the songs, do everything you're supposed to do and move forward as best you can. But in his head, he's still lost in the present and fixated on the past. He sees his band getting along, but he's on the outside now. He's no longer part of the clique. He has the ability to see that other people are feeling estranged as well, but he can't help because he can't help himself. What country, town or city is next? He has no idea. He couldn't care. A hot shower is his only refuge from all the noise. In this scene we see Axel leaving his home with his bags packed. His home doesn't feel like his home anymore. Axel is wearing a t-shirt that says Deep. I think he wants you to pay particular attention here. In the scenes that follow we see Axel leaving his home. Everything from the walls and the vehicles to the clothes people are wearing is white, plain, blank. It's no longer a place full of colour, love and happiness. It no longer exists for him here. Sure, happiness, love and innocence is possible here, which is what I think the children represent, but it's just something that doesn't or cannot exist for him here. He can't have it in this shell of a home, and so he must move on. Trying to find some semblance of self, we see Axel having a smoke outside a TV store in LA. The same TV store he stood outside watching himself in the Welcome to the Jungle video. Then we see him walking down the strip, passing by places like the Roxy and the Rainbow, where he cut his teeth trying to make it with bands like Hollywood Rose and Guns N' Roses, possibly trying to ground himself and regain a sense of familiarity. But it's all different now. The rock scene has changed. It isn't what he once knew, and so he keeps walking. This is the scene that seemed to throw a lot of people off. You're probably thinking, why an oil tanker in the middle of the ocean, and why does he jump off it? Maybe the ship represents the massive emotional baggage and burdens Axel has been carrying all this time. So fed up with life and the overwhelming problems he can't bear to deal with anymore, he decides to leave it all behind by jumping into the water to drown. So sick of feeling like shit, he wants to drown. He doesn't care anymore, he welcomes it. His bandmates attempt to reach him, but by now, it's too late. In certain spiritual traditions and cultures, a spirit animal refers to a spirit which helps guide or protect a person on a journey, and whose characteristics that person shares or embodies. Throughout this entire video, we have seen images of dolphins, and I believe they are Axel's spirit animal. The dolphin spirit animal has many qualities and strong symbolism. It generally represents peace and harmony. The animal of the seas and oceans is joyful, graceful, compassionate, intelligent, generous and protective. It also symbolises cooperation and freedom. And they've been there with him this entire time, watching over him. In the deepest, darkest depths of Axel's pain and anguish, just when we think Axel is done for, just when we think Axel had given up, the dolphins appeared once more, this time in a more tangible way. And this is the moment we hear them speak through Slash's guitar, probably telling them not to give up and to stop drowning, that despite everything that's gone on, that he should keep moving forward because everything is going to be okay. Now maybe I have this completely wrong and the video doesn't mean anything. Maybe it was a complete waste of money and the critics were right in what they said about it. But I don't believe that. There's no way that all of that symbolism was for nothing. But this is just my understanding of it. I think that despite whatever label people wanted to give this band, one thing about them that was undeniable was they were the biggest and best band of that time. And it was only natural that their songs and videos would match that status and take on a life of their own. But what do you think? Be sure to let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching.